there's a period of time that we're kind of not knowing where we're going and not knowing what's happening. We just know, we can look at the world and see that it is we're finally finding some peace. The Middle East, there's a chapter about Jerusalem. It's in the year 500, it's known as the city of wholeness. And I said, well, wait, Jerusalem means the city of peace. And she says, no, it means the legacy of wholeness. So I traced it back, and sure enough, that's what the Hebrew means. It doesn't mean the city of peace. It's fascinating. Yes?
Is money still used in the future?
Yes. And I was surprised. I saw it was in Jerusalem, where she took me on one of these sub-dimensions. And so we had some drinks, a glass of wine or whatever, at a sidewalk cafe, and she paid for it, but it wasn't because the money is not there because people have to earn a living. It's because they want to. It's a means of balancing energies and taking stock of how they use energy. Money is an energy. If you think of currency and current, electric current, money is an energy, and that's how they look at it.
So is there accumulation of money then?
In book 3, she talks about this. We finally get to run to that concept, and she explains that they go through periods in their lives. Almost all people, almost all vigilants in the future, go through periods of their lives where they have a lot of money, a lot of wealth. She doesn't talk about money so much, but wealth. And then they go through periods where they have nothing. And it happens over in cycles in their lives, in each life. So you don't stick with one thing or another. You go in and out of these. But it's not poverty. It's just experiencing, being fresh and open to the universe. And I'm sure you've read stories about like Paramahansa Yogananda had an experience where he had no money for a while and just lived by the grace of God and was given everything. And Eckhart Tolle tells the same story. Many people. Stefan told me he saw a documentary about a woman who lives without money.
Yeah.
And has done that 15 years. So these things, are possible. And I've been in situations in my life, surely, where grace was given to me when I needed it. Maybe we all have. Yes, sir.
Are there currently the disclaimer people or the antagonists or the black side that doesn't fit into this change that are here now?
Right. Yes. Are there antagonists in the future? Is that what you're asking? Or now?
To this change that's about to take place.
We have created evil, and we are responsible for what we've created. But it's also here to help propel us. We have a shadow side and a light side, and they still do have that in the future. But the shadow that they have is not what we would think of as evil at all. They use their shadow as a balancing, as a duality format, so that they still need duality. They are still in yin and yang and dark and light forms. But as evil, no. We're experiencing the last of that now as we go through this transition this year, and for how many years we have yet to go. It will still be with us for a while, but that's all ego-based. As soon as the ego dissolves or gets much lower, so does the evil. So does the shadow, as a really truly disruptive force in our lives, also reduce. Yes?
We're here listening to you, and you're talking about responsibility. So now that we have this knowledge, what's our responsibility? What is our action? What should we do to make sure we head in the right direction?
Good question. What is our responsibility now that we have this information, however limited it may be? I've always looked at responsibility as the ability to respond. So now we have the opportunity. It's not the responsibility is not something we have to do. It's something that we will want to do. It's something that will be different for each individual. But for collectively, I believe our responsibility is to look through the forms that we are attached to now and see through them, see the transparency of them, and see to the level of where we are resonating with divinity, with our souls. Another thing that they point out is in book 1 is that the veil of forgetfulness dissolves for their species. The veil of forgetfulness is what we experience when we incarnate on this planet. We forget that we have a soul. I mean, we may believe we have a soul, but we tend to forget. In each moment, we tend to forget. You can be awake one moment, I can be awake one moment, and suddenly something jars me back into my attachment to form, and the veil comes down. And it's designed that way. We designed it that way. We created this world to be this way so that we would be able to come back to God, if you want to use that word, so that we would be able to return to our souls in full consciousness, but having gone through the process of experiencing being cut off from it, at least in imagination, in our illusion. So the veil of forgetfulness is really an illusion, but from our perspective, it keeps popping up, it keeps closing and crossing. And I've had the highest experiences that I can imagine on inner journeys, shamanic journeys, other places, and a day later, I'm, cursing at the driver who cut me off on the highway. I'm back, the veil is closed, and I'm back there. And then I remember, oh, wait. Yes, sir.
2 things in the book I thought were very interesting was that our possessions are going to be one of the greatest obstacles in becoming egoless, and that our fear is the greatest thing to stand before our truth, in front of our truth.
Would you say that last part again? No.
That our fears stand in front of our truth.
Our fears stand in front of our truths. Yes. Yes. False evidence appearing real. That's a fear acronym. So it stands to reason, I believe, that it stands in the way of our truth. And again, I'm reminded of truth over and over in these books. Truth is not something you can say or write down. There's a passage in the Bible, you mentioned the Bible, where Pilate asks Jesus, what is truth? And there's nothing. He doesn't answer. And to me, that's always been an incredible image, that you can't say what truth is. And that demonstrated it right there. Of course, you can ignore it. You can breeze right past it and not notice that. But you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Not set you free, make you free. And what is that? What's the difference between setting free and making free? They explained this to me in the book. I didn't know. But I've always been attracted to that word, and a lot of people will say set instead of make, but it's written as make. Well, what they explained to me in the book is that making is what we're all about. We're recreating ourselves. We're not liberating ourselves from ourselves, or from evil, or from our shadows. We're remaking ourselves, and that's the truth that's going to make us free. It's much deeper than I can call back at this moment. Yes, ma'am?
How will the animals change and grow in their roles and purposes in our lives?
Good question, and I've had that question asked by my friends, and then I turned it back and asked my guides. There is a general awakening of the animal kingdom as well, which is linked to us very directly. Of course, animals play a very important role in our lives even now, in terms of our awakening and in terms of our compassion and all of these things. The animals are drawing this out of us even now, and they will do that even more in the future. But I can't give you much more right now. There are several passages in the books that talk about animals. Yes, ma'am. And then you.
Can you talk about religion, God, families, marriage, what that looks like?
Yes. They say that they don't have religion in the future as we have it now. They do, or they're very deeply spiritual, and they do feel a connection to Source, which we would call God. And they use the word God sometimes. And but they don't use religion as a separating mechanism in the lives of people. There's still forms. In fact, on the visit to Jerusalem where they took me, there were still Hasidic Jews at the Wailing Wall. And I said, wait a minute, I thought you said you don't have religions. And the answer was, well, they're not separative, they're still practicing the rituals to bring themselves into the presence of God, but they're not doing it in the same way that we might do it in this world today. Morality is the chapter where sexuality and marriage and so forth is talked about. Much freer, much more open. There's still marriage, there's still people who spend their lives together as couples. But then there are other arrangements where marriage is entered into with several people at a time. And I don't understand how that works. I didn't inquire on all the details. But O herself is connected to a man named Green who lives under a tree. She has a house, the house with no roof. It has a transparent roof, and it's grown out of the soil. They grow their houses. But the roof becomes transparent at times, or it can become opaque at times. She lives in this house, and he lives down, a mile or so away, down on the river, and he likes to live outdoors. His name is Green, of course. So she introduced that chapter as saying, well, this is going to be a little bit rough for you and maybe some of your readers to take because you have certain ideas about how these things should work, and we've changed. And so they were just telling me that there's been some changes.
Will the animals become extinct?
No.
And they will.
Well, some may. I didn't ask that question of whether all animals survive, but certainly animals would be a big part of the future. Yeah. Carol, I think you haven't asked a question.
Two things. Plant kingdom.
The plant kingdom.
Plant kingdom. Right now, this year, it's, at least surrounding me, it's incredible. The power coming through and the energy and the force and the life is just huge. And I don't think it's just spring, it's something else. And I just wondered if there was any information on that.
No, but I think you've just provided some.
Yeah, the house.
Well,
our houses.
Her house is a plant, yes. She lives in a plant.
It's a plant. Oh, because it's amazing what's going on right now.
Yeah. I think that you just put your finger on something. Again, let me remind you that you are writing this book yourselves. You're participating in the creation of it. It's not just me. And they say that imagination is a form of communication. So what we imagine, we can create. We are creating it. And we're hearing it from them, these messages. So if you're hearing that the plants are vibrating at a high...
I'm feeling it.
Yes, if you're feeling it, of course, then that's a message.